Hey guys, how are you all doing out there? This is Rob of Rule of Two Review. Welcome back to the channel, and today I'm asking a pretty important question. That question is whether or not it might be just a little bit dangerous for us to get too excited about the Nintendo Switch 2 just yet. Now, I already know that to a lot of you, it might seem really funny to hear that question coming from me specifically, because as those of you who have been following me for a while already know, I've actually been talking about the idea of the Nintendo Switch 2 releasing or being revealed around right now for 3 years. It was like early 2020 that I first started to get this idea and started having these discussions both in videos and on my live streams that I used to do very regularly at the time. I was already having the conversations where I was saying, I could see the Nintendo Switch 2 or the next-gen console maybe being revealed or released in 2022 or 2023. Now, we're at the very, very end of 2023, so we're obviously running out of time for that, 3-year-old prediction to end up being true. However, we are still living in a period where everyone is laser focused on the concept of the next-gen Nintendo console. They're predicting it, they're theorizing about it. We're hearing, statements that are being claimed to be leaks or rumors pretty much every week. It's really crazy. We are living in that very exciting rumor time right now, where most of us feel, even though it is not confirmed, of course, but most of us feel like we are on the cusp of the reveal of the Nintendo Switch 2. But speaking for myself, as somebody who's been one of the folks on YouTube talking about the idea of the Switch 2 the longest, it goes back to the not confirmed part, which is what leads me to the basic thesis statement and the question I'm proposing in this conversation. Yeah, we all feel like the Switch 2's reveal is imminent, but since we don't know it, I wonder if maybe we're all getting a little bit too excited, or if it could be dangerous for us to get so excited about the idea of the Switch 2 when there is nothing concrete. Now, speaking for myself and my own experience and journey being a YouTuber covering video games and obviously focused 99% on Nintendo, I've been doing it for 10 years. I actually am about a month away from hitting my 10-year anniversary doing YouTube. And so because I've been around for so long covering Nintendo and video games, I have a direct comparison that runs around in my brain when I think about the excitement we all have about the Switch 2, and it is, of course, the Nintendo NX. Yeah, because I've been around for 10 years doing YouTube and talking about Nintendo and covering news and theories, I absolutely was living through and discussing and running my YouTube channel through the very interesting and quirky and honestly kind of fun. I had a lot of fun during this time. I was doing all this back in the Nintendo NX era, where there was a lot of hype and theories and guessing and people claiming to leak things all the time about the Nintendo NX. Right now, we're experiencing it for the Switch 2 or the next-gen console, whatever it turns out to be called. But if we go back to 2015 and 2016, the same kinds of conversations and theories and leaks were happening around what was then called the Nintendo NX. It was going to be the successor to the Nintendo Wii U, which was the current console on the market, and of course we know eventually was revealed to become the Nintendo Switch. So before I jump back into direct comparisons to the whole Nintendo NX thing, I want to kind of come back to the main point here about if it's, I'm using this term dangerous, and that's maybe a little bit melodramatic, but just go with me because it's the only word I can think of here. If it's dangerous, quote unquote, for a lot of us online and as fans of Nintendo to get excited about a Switch 2 when we don't really know about it. And like I already laid out here, I feel like I'm in a little bit of a strange position, and I'm not quite sure exactly how to feel about it 100%, simply because I've been theorizing it for 3 years. But at the same time, even though I believe it is very close to being revealed and maybe even released, I think because there is nothing concrete and because a lot of what we see online is just people grasping at straws to find any reason to say, here is a story, here is a leak, here is a rumor, when there really aren't these stories, that's where I wonder if we get into kind of that quote-unquote dangerous territory where both people covering it and presenting it as news and those who are fans hungry for this news, if maybe it's becoming too much. And a lot of us, and I've been guilty of this in the past, so I'm not trying to absolve myself of guilt here, but maybe a lot of us are too laser focused on something that isn't tangible or isn't real yet. Now, I will remind you, though, on the flip side, it is always fun to get excited about things even before they're real. And generation jumps from one piece of hardware to another, no matter what company you're talking about, is always exciting. It's always fun. It's also an inevitability. So those people who are maybe too emotionally tied to the current Switch and not ready to embrace the fact that a Switch 2 is coming, you have to remember that. This is the normal cycle of the video game console life. And so I do think it's okay to be excited for and want these things, but again, simply because it's not tangible, and also simply because of the sheer volume of articles and conversations and quote-unquote leaks and quote-unquote rumors and just the nonstop barrage on YouTube that we see nowadays about it, that's where I wonder if the obsession and the focus is a little bit too strong at this phase in the game where, again, nothing is real just yet. Now, to get back to the Nintendo NX thing, you know, I'll be fully honest with you guys. Again, as somebody who was making YouTube videos and talking about a lot of the stories and making my own predictions about the Nintendo NX back in the day on this exact channel, I loved that time. And I've brought this up before in prior conversations. I have very fond memories of what it was like to be doing YouTube. And I was a much smaller channel back then, so it was really exciting to talk about something so fresh at that time. And I had a great group of friends, you know, I got to know through YouTube and doing a podcast called The Juice is Loose with a bunch of great people. And it was really fun for us, and it was fun for myself to kind of live in that time where we got to be excited about the Nintendo NX. You know, our only questions at the time were, what is the Nintendo NX? It's kind of like The Matrix, right? Like when the first Matrix movie came out, the whole mystique around that film is, what is the Matrix? And back in 2015 and 2016, the whole mystique of gaming is, what is the NX? At that time, we thought it could have been a freaking toaster that would also play Legend of Zelda games for all we knew, because Nintendo makes weird things. And so it was such a fun time to be, to be early on in my internet presence and have a small audience listening to me talk about it and cover the news articles and the stories and the rumors that would get out there. It was a lot of fun. Now, you might say, Rob, how could you have such great memories of the Nintendo NX era, but also feel like it's a little bit dangerous, quote unquote, to be excited about the Switch 2 right now? And here's the reason. In my opinion, there's a huge difference between the Nintendo NX era and the Switch 2 era we're in right now. And the difference is, back in the Nintendo NX era, the Nintendo NX was something that Nintendo confirmed was a real thing that they were making, and that codename of NX came directly from Nintendo themselves. So immediately, and right off the bat, when you go back to 2015 and 2016 YouTube and Nintendo news, the Nintendo NX, by all definition, was a more tangible thing than the Switch 2 is right now, because Nintendo has not acknowledged a single thing, and they haven't said a single thing about their next generation console other than, well, let me retract that. They have talked about, in vague terms, they've talked about plans and transitions and future things for eventual hardware, and they did show that very famous graphic, I think around 2 years ago, where they showed a little bit of a roadmap into the future, and there was like a vague symbol for like, you know, next-gen hardware 20XX or whatever. I can't remember the exact image. I'll try to remember to put it up here as you're watching. And so that's happened in very vague, undefined terms, but it has not been an actual discussion that Nintendo has spent time on, nor have they given us a code name. Everything, for the most part, that we're all talking about when it comes to Switch 2, and we're all theorizing about, and even the videos I've made over the past 3 years, it's all guesses based on what we think. I mean, we just call the thing the Switch 2 because we don't know what else to call it. When we called it the Nintendo NX in 2015 and in 2016, that was Nintendo's name for it. They gave that to us. They fed us this glorious phrase that we all got to talk about and include in our thumbnails and our YouTube titles and on our Twitter conversations because it was Nintendo's name. I mean, they gave us a great nugget there to really do something with. Nintendo hasn't told us Switch 2. Nintendo never even told us Switch Pro, back when the Switch Pro was the hot topic. That's something that the gaming community and the gaming press and all these different outlets and YouTubers, myself included, have kind of settled on ourselves for now to call it. Very similar to how we called it Breath of the Wild 2 for years, because Nintendo didn't give us anything other than sequel to Breath of the Wild, so we just created Breath of the Wild 2 until eventually Nintendo told us what it was actually called, which is Tears of the Kingdom. And so all of this is being said to bring us back to the point that right now, the Switch 2, the next-gen Nintendo console, it's theoretical, it is not tangible, it is not real yet. Even though we all believe in our heart and souls that it's real and we're going to see it sometime soon, and yes, I do think that as well, we're all going on hope, right? We're all just crossing our fingers that what we think is going to happen is going to happen. And the next thing is going to be a Switch 2, and it's going to be a hybrid, and it's going to be as powerful as a PS4 Pro or a PS5, and it's going to launch with Metroid Prime 4 or whatever. Back in 2016, the Nintendo NX, that was something real that Nintendo told us about. And then Eurogamer started getting their hands on some of these like patents that showed this like tablet device with controllers that separated, and it felt crazy, but it was something that they broke, and that's exactly what the Switch was. Even Boogie2988 at one point was at a convention where he talked to someone, I think it was someone he knew who worked at Ubisoft at the time, but don't quote me because it was a long time ago, and that person told them that, yeah, the Nintendo NX is this thing where you can play it when you're home, but you can also take it with you where you go, and as soon as you come home, you can continue that same game back on your TV. And Boogie2988 talked about that at like some convention. I remember making a video about it, and it didn't make sense because we couldn't picture the whole hybrid console with the dock. We didn't know what that looked like, but that was something that was talked about before the NX was revealed, and that was a story, and that was a rumor, and something that turned out to be true. And so, you know, I'm in danger of repeating myself a lot more than I want to in this conversation, so I'll kind of start wrapping things up here. But it just goes to show the difference of what things were like back in 2015 and 2016 compared to right now with the Switch 2, where it's just not real yet. And so, is it going to show up before the end of the year? I think maybe. Is it going to show up and be revealed and released next year? I think almost definitely. But right now, people are so starved and hungry for it, and even content creators, you know, so many folks, and again, I have been guilty of this in the past as well, and I've really tried to dial my Switch 2 conversations back. Just my own personal choice. No one else has to do this. But a lot of people are so starved for this that I think stories and discussions get out there that aren't really based on anything all that substantial. It's just a reason to start a conversation. And it's not the biggest deal, but I do think it could create false hype in a lot of people that doesn't need to be created just yet. And so we got to play the wait and see game. It is, like I said at the beginning, an exciting time because we believe it's coming soon, and it's fun to go to a new generation and to see what Nintendo is going to surprise us with next. But we just don't know yet, so I think we just have to wait and see. Fingers crossed they reveal the thing, or at least confirm it with their own code name before the end of the year. Time will tell if that happens, but I do think we're going to be playing the thing next year, and so that part becomes very exciting to me. So these are just my thoughts. I know I rambled a lot, but I want to hear what you guys think. Talk about it below, and that's about it.